What's up, War Report family? It's your boy C Dub. Auburn flips Alvin Henderson from Penn State. And so we ask, what does the future of Auburn's running back room look like with him coming into the fold? And can Hugh Freeze finally win the state of Alabama in terms of recruiting for the first time in a long time? We'll discuss that and more in today's edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate. Brought to you by Golden Cast Iron. C-Dub. Like Joe. Be Will. By G. You are now listening to.
Yes, indeed. Happy Sunday, everyone. You're watching the Weekend Tailgate courtesy of show sponsor Golden's Cast Iron. Guys, please be sure to fall in, share this video, smash that like button. And if you are new to the War Report, we're pleased to have you. Hit subscribe so you can get the latest on some of our content that comes up in the future. Also, we want to show some love to our show sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron. Support us by supporting our sponsors, and you can do that by visiting goldenscastiron.com/WR, where you can get 15% off of weights using code GetYourWeightUp or $65 off of a fire pit or Kamado grill using code TWR. As always, we want to show love to our show sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron. Thanks for partnering with us and helping us to bring the people amazing content. All right, tell the people how they can get a green name, sir, or how they can gift a green name.
It's real simple. You hit the join button right there below the video. Whether you're watching it live or you're rewatching, you can do those things. And you get all of the great content we've got going on. We've been having a wonderful time. Green Name Gang, y'all brag on it, man. Them office hours have been awesome. So y'all make sure that y'all get the green names going so that you can hop in there with these great office hours. That's where we just sit and we talk about whatever. So I've been doing those once a week faithfully, and hopefully everybody's having a good time like I have been. I ain't gonna tell you everything we talk about because get your green name and find out. If you have a green name, you can gift a green name to somebody else and they can get a free month of membership on you. And they will definitely see the benefits of being able to do that. Make sure you lock in with all the guys on the network if you want to get a comprehensive look at all things going on with Auburn sports. College Loop has been keeping you guys abreast of what's going on with softball. So if you're into Auburn softball, my guy Dylan has got you covered over there, the Uptempo podcast. They do a lot more of the recruiting stuff than we do. So if you're really, really into recruiting, make sure you tap in with our guys over there at the Uptempo podcast. We are on podcast as the Auburn Express, giving y'all that great football and basketball content. And the Just a Sec pod has been slacking lately, but we will get back to it very soon. Media days will start jumping out here with more Just a Sec content. That's going to be about the entirety of the SEC. Speaking of the entirety of the SEC, my guy Mike G sat down with a guy who covers all of the SEC and JD Piquel. That is live right now on our channel. So you guys make sure you go and check that out because that interview has gotten some great responses so far. Talking about recruiting, which is what we're here to talk about a little bit more today.
JD said take the over on Auburn 7.5.
But he was also the same guy who took the under last year. Is he going to go 2 for 2?
Yeah,
he was right last year. So hey,
yeah, he was. He says take the over. He's been selling buy stock in Auburn now. Buy stock in Cale Coleman. Buy stock in Hugh Freeze. Buy stock in Toomer's Lemonade. He's buying stock in everything Auburn right now. But Coleman. It was Cam Coleman. Yep. It was a fun conversation, I thought. Kind of listening to his thoughts on it. Probably the most interesting thing from that interview, because it's been such a hot topic, guys, talking about the portal versus high school. And he described the portal as, or trying to build a program from the portal primarily is eating out every night and trying to lose weight. And I thought it was an interesting analogy. He says, listen, it's going to be hard to do. It's going to be super expensive. That's the portal. That's the portal today. If you want to go out and get these kids, man, high school recruiting is still a way to do it. So JD and I agree on that. It was good conversation. Go check out that interview.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and I thought about this a lot since our conversation on re-recruiting guys, or excuse me, of using the transfer portal. You still have to re-recruit the guys that are in your own building. And sometimes that becomes an expensive proposition when they've had a good season or they're poised for a breakout season and you're trying to prevent them from jumping ship. I think about a guy like Caleb Downs, right, at Alabama. Had a great first year, played the entirety of his freshman season, still bounced in the portal and went elsewhere. You think about a guy like, what's the kid's name that plays cornerback for us? Why am I blanking right now?
Hood?
No, not the one that left, the one that stayed. K.N. Lee.
Yeah.
Yes.
K.N. Lee, rumors were he was flirting with the portal, right? So you have to figure out how to keep guys happy to keep them in-house. But Colton Hood's a good example. He was going to play. Like, he was poised to be in the rotation at defensive back here at Auburn. Everything isn't always one way or the other, right? Like, the transfer portal, a portion of the transfer portal is keeping your guys out of it. So you're in the portal every single season, whether you're actively going and getting guys from the portal or you're re-recruiting guys from your team to keep them out of the portal. That's a portion of this whole transfer portal equation that Coach Freeze has done actually a pretty decent job of maintaining the guys that he really wants to keep in-house right here in Auburn.
Yeah, I just thought it was a silly argument because we're acting as though Hugh Freeze didn't have one of the top portal classes in year one.
Yeah, no, it's completely silly. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's not like he could completely abandon the portal. He went to the portal early and often in year one, and picked up some key guys out of the portal this upcoming or this current season.
Yeah,
so it's a balance.
It's year one. You still have to make Auburn an attractive spot for kids to land from the portal, and that takes time. Right. So the same way high school recruiting takes time, the person who, will quit calling my name, but like it's almost like he was making a point as if he wasn't trying.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that at all. I was just like, it's not
and
like
that's
he's
why
not
I say
trying.
this has got to center completely around the quarterback position because that's the only way this argument even semi makes sense. But then when you think about the fact that the guy that's starting at quarterback for Auburn this year was the guy that got out of the portal last year, it still falls apart. So I'm just like, I don't even understand. You're just talking.
Look, they swung. They missed some in the portal last year. But if you believe that the program was in shambles when he took over, that shouldn't be a shock. Right. This thing takes time. I think, and I've always agreed with Freeze there that, like, I don't think the roster was as bad as some people were saying. I think they had more systemic issues than they had talent issues. They had talent issues at certain positions, sure, right? Obviously, quarterback was an issue, but even then, the way it was being managed, who knows? Maybe those guys could have been better with some proper management. Like, it's, and his job was to fix the systemic things, right? Fix the recruiting system. And, fix the on-field system, and you'll see everything turn up. This year is the year, though. Like, I'm telling you, this year, they need to show progress towards what he's trying to do. And if they can do that, then I don't know. This is going to be a really silly conversation in hindsight going into 2025. Right? Yeah. If he wins 7 or 8 games, and yes, I'm saying 7 is enough. Like, I'm going on record right now. At the end of the season, if Auburn only wins 7 games, I will not be criticizing Freeze at all. I expect there to be some tough losses too. I'm looking for it. I'm like, listen, I will complain in the moment, but
depends on who that 5th losses too, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just not quite there yet, and I think that that realization started to set in for me near the end of last season. So, like, again, if you buy into his long-term process of doing this, then you understand year 2 might not be the year. If they surprise, great. I'd be all for that. If they don't, then I expect some year 2 struggles, unless 2021 Peyton Thorne shows up. 2021 Peyton Thorne shows up. All bets are off. Throw everything I said out the window.
Yeah, we
get 2021 Peyton Thorne. And I'm talking like, what was it, like 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions or something like that? Yeah. All bets are off, dude. Like, it's just, they may make the playoff. That guy shows up.
Well, we'll definitely see. We would definitely see. And again, we've been discussing the portal recruiting, some major recruiting news over the past week. It's been a really good week for Auburn over the past week or so, picking up some vital commitments that they've been in after. Eric Winters is an example of one, but the latest is 4-star running back Alvin Henderson from Elba, Alabama,
Yes.
who originally committed to Penn State back in April. But Auburn still stayed after this kid. There were a few people making predictions late last week about him committing to Auburn. And on Friday, he did just that. He becomes the 16th commit of the 2025 class. He's the number 8 running back, number 11 player from the state of Alabama per 247 Sports, number 113 overall player, 5'9", 200-pound running back. And major pickup for Auburn. Auburn currently has a top 5 class per 247. Can they hold serve at that position or even move up, because they're after a plethora of other big recruits? How do we feel about this flip and about what Auburn is doing? This is actually the first, not necessarily the first committed running back. Auburn had one in the last class, but Auburn didn't take him. He signs, he will be Auburn's first signed running back in the Hugh Freeze era. What are our thoughts about this flip and this pickup? I'll start with you, Ike.
Listen, Alvin Henderson was a guy that was really heavily involved with Auburn prior to signing with Penn State. And there were a lot of people who speculated after, Cadillac was no longer a coach. That was the thing that kind of soured, I guess you could say, the relationship between Auburn and Alvin Henderson, and what kind of pushed him closer to Penn State. But according to Alvin Henderson, Auburn never really let up off of him, even after his commitment to Penn State. Yeah. And he always really wanted to be at Auburn. So this isn't necessarily surprising. I am, I'm glad to see that he has decided to make this commitment. But listen, y'all know I ain't gonna count no chickens until they hatch. So until he signs, I'm happy that he's in the fold, but I just need to wait and see when the ink dries on the paperwork what's going to happen. Yeah. But by all accounts, Alvin Henderson is a supremely talented running back. He's in the top 15 recruits in the state, and we'll get more into the in-state recruiting in a little while. But it's never a bad thing to get a guy who is a running back from the state of Alabama who is as highly coveted as Alvin Henderson. So looking forward to seeing how this all plays out with him.
Mike, talk to me, man. What are your thoughts about this pickup?
My thoughts are it's 865 miles from where Alvin Henderson is to Happy Valley. He probably took a look at the map and said, you got to do what to get in there? We played Penn State 2 years ago. And Ike and I were trying to figure out how to get to this game.
Yeah.
I mean, the flights in and around there are crazy. So it was like super long drive or crazy flight into some little airport and a rental car. And what we settled on was watch ESPN. These guys want to play. They want their folks to be able to come see them play. They do, man. And here's the thing. And don't get me wrong. Penn State has a top 5 game day experience, right? When they do the whiteout, it's insane. I mean, you guys seen that Penn State
versus
do it
once
Michigan
a year, though. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you saw that Penn State versus Michigan, where I mean, like I think they had to call a timeout before they could run a play. It was so loud in there. Yeah. It is a top tier, first class college football experience. But man, Jordan Hare is nothing to joke with, and you can get something similar to that, plus stay home. And get a little bit away from home, be in your own world, same type of exposure. You're not getting less exposure at Auburn. You're in the SEC. And you're coming to a program that has won a national championship much more recently than Penn State.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, to me, what you said on the front end of this season was Hugh Freeze and Derek Nix. I was going to call him Derek Scott. Derek Nix never let off They kept recruiting them. And this is what I think maybe this is the part of the recruiting process that, the last staff didn't get. You can't quit on kids.
Yeah.
You have to keep recruiting. If you quit on a kid, they're going to quit on you. But it's not over until they sign.
Thanks.
And Hugh Freeze believes that he's building something here that kids are going to want to play in. So he's just like, listen, we're not going to stop recruiting you. You may not realize we're the one now, but you're going to realize it 3 months from now. Because once it gets closer to signing, and I've talked to recruits about this, the doubts start to creep in. Because this is the biggest decision most of them have made their entire life. And they're saying, do I leave home? Do I stay home? If you're in the chat and you've ever had to relocate for a job from a place that you actually liked, it's tough. Even though it's the better opportunity. Guys, I loved Phoenix. Caesar, you know how I was living in Phoenix. I loved Phoenix. So, but when DC came knocking, it was like, ugh, do I really want to leave Phoenix? You know what I mean? My bank account said yes, so I left. But it was hard. It was a really hard
one bad in Phoenix. Either. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
I get your point.
It was hard. It was a hard decision, and I think that's what these kids are facing. So they're like, okay, the bag exists at Auburn and Penn State. And I'm trying to weigh all these different things, and you've got people in your ear as well too. You got people saying go and people saying stay. Mama's probably saying stay. Daddy's probably like, go, son, be a man somewhere else. And you got friends and people in your ear. This is a tough decision. I think Hugh Freeze understands this, and that's why they never quit on him. So I like that. I think this is a good flip. I know we're going to talk later about like what the balance of recruiting is in the state, but it's a shot across the bow to DeBoer. Yeah. You're not Saban. You're not Saban. And if you're going to battle me for recruits, you're going to have to put in 4 times the work. Saban got to rest on the totality of his accomplishments for the most part over the last 4 or 5 years, right? Like, he had the national titles under his belt. He had the draft picks. He had all this stuff. The board didn't have any of that shit in the SEC. I'm being honest, man. All you have is a bunch of accomplishments in a conference that does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
And you still came up short. So I'm excited about I'm telling you, when that news alert came across my phone, I was like, whoa, what? They did what? Come on, man. This is a great thing.
I agree. And one of the things I'll add to your point, Mike, I think you made a great point about Hugh Freeze and staff. Ike alluded to it as well about this staff being relentless and not giving up on kids. I think something else I'm noticing with this staff is we already know that Auburn is a place that sells itself. When you would hear recruits coming from visits, talking with media, they would always talk family. They would always talk about how Auburn is this family atmosphere. It feels like home, which is what Alvin Henderson said. But Henderson also talked beyond the fact that this is a coaching staff that's actually talked about how they can succeed at Auburn, not just a family atmosphere. So what you're doing is you're combining an atmosphere and an environment that sells itself with a coaching staff that can sell.
Yeah.
And what's happening is the days of us losing a recruit, because there was a time when a kid would recruit elsewhere, that was it. They'd have to reshuffle their board and look for somewhere else. This is a coaching staff that knows how to sell Auburn, a place that already knows how to sell itself. And then now these kids aren't just joining a family environment. You're joining a place where you can actually have success. And you can only share that message when your offensive coordinator and the head coach are aligned and they're on the same page. Both of these two guys have been hitting up Alvin Henderson ever since he committed to Penn State, and the messaging has been in sync.
Yeah, Caesar, you talk about the place selling itself. Auburn has a beautiful campus.
Yeah,
this is no bias in this at all. When people come to Auburn, almost always the first comment is the campus is beautiful. It's wonderfully set up. It is. Like, listen, I have been to a lot of other campuses. I've been to the University of Arizona's campus. Crap. Awful. It's like, I don't even know how to describe that campus. Arizona State's campus, same thing. It's almost like it's not even a campus. They just put some school buildings in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
It's wild, right? Like you got like an Omni Hotel next to their journalism building. It's weird, man. You don't even feel like you're on campus. When people come to Auburn, I remember Talia Scott saying that she was so taken back by how great the campus was when she got here. She was completely in awe. This was one of the top 5 women's basketball prospects in the portal. Could have gone anywhere she wanted. She said, I came to Auburn, and I was blown away as soon as we got on campus.
I mean, she was at Arkansas before, so, you know.
Yeah, well, to my point. That's my point, though, right? That's my point, though.
That was a low bar.
Well, no, they're investing in women's basketball at Arkansas. But
yeah, sure they are. It's just their campus looks like Arkansas.
The campus.
Yeah.
A lot of campuses look like Arkansas, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A lot of campuses look like Arkansas. So when you come to Auburn, it's like,
That's
whoa,
funny.
this is crazy. You know, it's like that one McDonald's in the hood versus that like one McDonald's you stop by on a trip out of town that's all got super clean bathrooms and it's just like perfect. You know, they still got a playhouse and shit.
I don't go to McDonald's out of town, so I don't know. I'm gonna trust you on that.
Okay, yeah, I'm telling you. Like, there's some of them you stop at. There's one on the way to Nashville. You probably know the one I'm talking about, right by the Tesla chargers. On the way out, I think it's like Cornersville or something. Come on, man, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't drive a Tesla. I don't know where Tesla chargers are.
It's like there's a gas.
You know,
I
charged their car.
Yeah.
It's a
runs on gas.
It's a common spot to stop on the way to Nashville, and you have made that trip at least 3 times in the last year.
I go to Buc-ee's.
Cornersville? Is there a Buc-ee's?
No, I'm saying when on my way to
Buc-ee's on
Nashville, that's the
65
stop
now.
I always make is the Buc-ee's that's just past.
There's a
Huntsville.
Buc-ee's now. It's a little bit past
that's
the
right.
exit.
There is a
to
Buc-ee's.
Huntsville.
There is a Buc-ee's. All right, fine, whatever. Too good for McDonald's. But
Sorry, Master,
I mean, you step in there, it's like premium, and you just know, like, hey, there are other McDonald's around, but this one is premium. Like Auburn is premium. The campus is premium. I'm telling you, and you will have been to other campuses, but when you step on campus here, I think that this is why coaches continue to want to come coach here. Politics aside, the school is very, very easy to sell.
I think Auburn is a huge secret, except the guys in the SEC who come here to play. But to the rest of everyone else, it's a huge. I don't think people understand how cool of a place it is, and it does sell itself.
Yeah, and we all went to school there, so you know, like it was the longest walk we had. Probably Caesar was from the Hill to Haley Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. At the time, it's bigger than that now, I think. But like,
I said, the campus is
it's crazy now. Yeah. But like, you know, from the Hill to Haley Center was like the longest walk we had. I still complained about that. But when I went to other campuses, I was like, whoa, man, this is
now if you're talking about how spread out other campuses, you're 100%
like Tuscaloosa,
Alabama. Oh my God, if you ever been up there, I'd never go to class.
Comparatively, the way Auburn's campus is laid out is way more. We thought about this school before we started doing this stuff. It was like other places were like, oh, we could have a school too. And we're like, we'll get that building and that one over there and that one over there, and we'll call that our campus. And it's like, nah, bro, that's not how this.
Yeah, terrible, awful setup, and no Tiger Transit, right? I swear, back in the day, Alabama had one trolley. Remember the trolley?
Yeah,
it used to go from a dorm called the Rose Towers to like the Millwood campus and back.
I thought they traveled on horseback. I have no idea what they did.
It might as well have been a horse and buggy. It was terrible.
Guys, let's talk about how this room, assuming Alvin Henderson signs with Auburn is looking to bring in another running back in this class since they didn't sign a running back in the previous class. You bring in an additional running back. That's 2 for this class. What does the future of this running back room look like? Obviously, we know that Jarquez Hunter, this will likely be his last year. But what about the remaining guys in that room? And I know you've been doing a little bit of investigative work. You have not seen Sean Jackson on the roster for Auburn.
Oh, yeah. He hasn't
no-
shown up on the roster in a while. I don't know. I haven't gotten any definitives around what his status is, but yeah, he's not shown up on the roster, even the revamped roster that they put on the website. The website's been redone, by the way, for those who haven't visited the website in a while. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What does the future look like? Obviously, Alvin Henderson is a guy that's coming into this team. They're look to have a plan for him, but Auburn isn't short. They're not short on talented guys in that room, obviously. Yep. So what does that room look like to you in terms of who's going to be the featured guy? Is Jarquez the only person who leaves, in your opinion? You know, we've talked about these types of scenarios with the QB position, right? Now we got to ask, okay, what happens to a Damari Alston? What about a Jeremiah Cobb? Where does Alvin Henderson fit into this running back room in terms of what do you think his role could potentially be in year one?
I think the main question you have to answer is, does Jeremiah Cobb somehow jump Damari Alston this year? Right? You know, because if that happens, Damari's out of here.
Yeah, sure.
He's out of here, right? So, you know, what is the role going to be? Is it going to be more of a running back by committee? Because they found ways to get Cobb his time last year. And this is one thing that I've seen about Hugh Freeze's staff. It doesn't matter how young you are. If they won't play you, they're going to play you. They're going to show you that you're a priority. And Cobb got on the field enough to burn his red shirt last year. They used him. He made some big plays. He got in the end zone last year. Well, all the other guys they had in that running back room, he scored meaningful touchdowns. So it's clear that they like him. Now, if I'll take you back to the first spring Freeze was here, and he said openly that Damari Alston was way better than they gave him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
He did say that. But I have questions about how they're going to try to split this thing up. It's Jarquez right now, Damari 2A and Cobb 2B, if you ask me. I would put them 2A and 2B. And then health always comes into the question. You know, if he can't make it through a whole season, then I definitely think, you know, and Cobb does, it's going to be difficult. Right. So I would look for I'm 50-50 on whether Damari stays or goes.
Okay.
I'm 50-50 on that.
Ike, your thoughts, man?
Yeah, similarly to what Mike said, it's about how it goes this season. I think will determine what happens next season. I don't think the presence of Alvin Henderson immediately means anything for either of the two guys that would be presumptively coming back next season in Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. But the distribution of carries this season will say a lot about kind of what this new free system means for running backs, right? Because we don't fully know how Coach Freeze anticipates utilizing running backs in this system with Derek Nix as the play caller. But I think if Damari is able to be a solid number 2 back, then he would presumptively be the number 1. He would see what his role would look like as the new Jarquez Hunter next season. And then Cobb could firmly see, okay, if DA was the 2B or the second option at running back, that's what I should look like as a translation to next season. And hopefully, you know, as the passing game continues to improve, everybody gets more opportunities because we're staying on the field longer, XYZ. You can kind of do the calculus and the math of, okay, well, if this season I got this many carries and I was the number 2 back, next season the number 1 back got this many carries. So you can say, all right, I'm in a good place and I should stay put. If, like Mike said, this season you don't really see the number 2 back getting a lot of opportunities and you're Jeremiah Cobb and you walk into next season, you're like, I don't know what being the number 2 back at Auburn means for me unless I am poised to be the number 1 back that next season and I can just wait for year 3, which would mean that's the year I'm draft eligible and I can see what my future looks like as I'm the number 1 back, that kind of progression stuff. But again, Mike already said this, if those roles flip and Jeremiah Cobb becomes the number 2 back this season, there's no reason Damari Alston should stick around.
Yeah.
Like you have to do a lot of convincing to make a guy in his senior season say, I'm going to be the number 2 back in an offense that has a clear feature back in that offense, and I'm splitting carries with him. That doesn't do well for his potential NFL future. He needs to go somewhere where he can be the guy. And the
Does
question
Damari get
be,
a COVID season? Does he get a COVID season?
I don't know if they. I think this
He
last
came in
class
one
might
too
have
late.
been.
Yeah.
I think
He
this
came in
last
once,
class
he
might
doesn't
have
get a
been it.
COVID year. He doesn't get a COVID year.
That'd be the math that he'd be trying to work out in that situation.
What factor does Derek Nix play into this? Running backs coach / OC. In terms of getting these guys opportunities and whatnot.
Derek Nix loves Damari Alston. So, like, if it's up to him, they're going to find a role for him. But like I said, the reality of how it plays out on the field is not something Derek Nix can control. So, how he's going to have to, like, when DeMar gets in the game, what kind of situations are they putting him in? And those first 3 or 4 games are so crucial because you got cupcakes. And that's your chance to kind of get your footing. Like, even though they played a cupcake, Jarquez Hunter missing game 1, it definitely hurt him game 2 versus Cal. He just looked rusty. They need that first game, man, to kind of get their game day legs under them and get rolling. So, that one game, missing that one game was the only thing that kept him from being 1,000-yard back last year.
Yeah, for sure.
Would have been 1,000-yard back easily. So Derek Nix, he likes the guys that he has in his room right now. And I would argue in totality, because look, Quinshon Judkins is a great back, right? He did some good things, but I was told he was a problem in some other areas. But the totality of this room right now, I know he loves the makeup of this room. And if you're a coach, you're concerned primarily with depth. Right? Like, because there's no such thing as a bell cow back anymore, guys. These guys get hurt at too high a rate for you to run one guy into the ground. I'm really going to date myself here, but but he even had a running mate. When you think about backs like Darren McFadden, he was running with Felix Jones. It's kind of like the change of pace guy. Mm-hmm. But, what was the last time you saw a running back that it was like, this dude is getting like 80% of the carries?
I don't keep up enough with some of these other
think about it. Think about
what they do, but
even you know what I mean. Like Trent Richardson kind of ran the ball like that a little bit.
Yeah,
I guess. It's just it's really really hard to do, and that's why you see running back in the draft. It's not so much anymore.
I think you saw it. I think you saw it when the league was putting a heavy premium on running backs. You saw guys getting their carries to get that exposure. But
correct. But now
it's pointless now.
It's almost rare to have a top 10 pick that's a running back,
right?
Because everybody's like, there's always going to be diamonds in the rough, and we're doing that by committee anyway.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so the Texas kid that went to Atlanta was a top 10 pick. I don't know what the distribution of carries were at Texas for him. That was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Who's that
guy? I can't think of what his name is.
Someone
y'all know what I'm talking about.
For sure.
Yeah. Chat, help us out. Y'all are so good at this.
But any Atlanta fans will definitely know who it's talking about. But yeah, so again, it's not something that happens often. And Bijan Robinson, thank you, Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson, yes, Bijan Robinson.
Like I said, I don't know what the distribution of carries were for Texas in that season for him, but it's becoming less and less a position where you're going to have just one guy that's doing it. Even when you talk about what Quinshon Judkins was doing at Ole Miss, he still had another guy that was coming in, taking a portion of those carries. Bentley, I think is his name, that was at Ole Miss. So, but they were able to get Judkins 1,000-yard seasons there. So you can produce 1,000-yard backs and you can produce high producing running backs in a system and still split those carries with someone else. So that's what most coaches are trying to do to keep the tread. What Cadillac used to say, keep the tread off the tires for these guys in college.
One of the best backs to get drafted in the last few years definitely was Saquon Barkley, right? And he spent a lot of his first few years in the NFL hurt.
True. Yeah.
They invested a lot in that guy, and like, man, he's struggling. And this is why I think you don't see so much of a focus on running back. They're like, look, they got a high rate of turnover, and we're doing it by committee. Yeah, like, so we could take it back in like the second, third, fourth round, and we're going to get a diamond in the rough, and we're going to pay a lot less for it over the long run, doing it that way. And let's prioritize O-line, D-line, and wide receiver. Quarterbacks always are going to go at a premium in the draft, but they're looking at other positions primarily, on those lines to fill out with. So, if you're Damari, like last year, it felt like he was like, Jarquez was getting kind of like he was getting the lion's share of the carries, but there was a second back that was 5 or 6 carries behind him, but definitely over 10 carries a game. And if you're like, you want to be that guy going into next year that's getting closer to 20 carries than not per game. And Payne Thorne has already said, like, listen, I'm not carrying the ball 100 times this year.
You took the words out of my mouth. If that holds true, and Payne Thorne is actually utilizing his arm more this year,
there should be more carries there. 100 more carries there for somebody.
You like to hear that if you're Damari,
or those are passes. But like, if you split the difference,
but he's out there.
Yeah, he's passing a little bit more because not all 100 of those runs are going to turn into passes, right?
Yeah,
but
sure.
There's room for growth on both because their play, due to 3 and outs, their play rate was very low per game. So you had Payne Thorne, who was about like 140 passes short of where Freeze wants him to be, pass attempts. And, of that 120 rushes or whatever he had, right, you take half of those, you make them passes, and that helps him, right? And then you take half of those, you give them back to the running backs to take that load off of Peyton. And then you increase your play rate because you're on the field longer running more plays. There more opportunity for everybody. There was very limited time to shine on offense for Auburn's offensive players last year because of the failure that was, play calling at times.
Yeah, for sure.
It was tough.
Well, listen, we're gonna take a break real quick, and we're gonna return, take some of your comments, and talk about what does Alvin Henderson's commitment, recent flip from Penn State, mean in terms of in-state recruiting. And with Nick Saban gone, can Auburn begin to win the state consistently again? We'll discuss that and more. Guys, share this video, smash that like button. We greatly appreciate it. We have over 250 people watching. Let's get the likes up. We greatly appreciate that. We'll be back, pay some bills, and we'll discuss the second topic.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelika-rageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
As always, thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who've continued to have memberships with the War Report. We are on the path to have, I want to have all the people in the chat be Green Name Gang. And we appreciate everybody who's decided to have those memberships. As we get closer to the season, you will continue to get more and more perks, like tickets to games. We give away free tickets to every single home game for Auburn, and those are open to members. So make sure you get your Green Name active at least before the season starts, but you'll miss a lot of great film review and such if you don't get that active during this off season. And Media Days is coming up. A lot of great content coming for you guys. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now in the same fashion in which Tiffany Byers has already done on this show. We appreciate Tiffany for gifting those memberships so far today. And they will get a free month of membership on you. Now, for all of my fellas out there, y'all know it's Smooth Sack Summer, right? Well, if you didn't know, Manscaped is here to help you out and get you acclimated to all things involving your balls. Manscaped has the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, and it has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. Every man knows how scary it can get when going for a close shave below the belt. That's why they trust Manscaped with all of the sensitive areas. We have Manscaped products. Well, I have been utilizing my Manscaped products that have been so generously gifted to me from the company. And it's been wonderful, but a wonderful experience so far. I haven't had any issues making sure that I'm doing my thing. You know what I'm saying? But you have the dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3 length settings, combs, and did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Beach, lake, or shower, this razor will get the job done for the strongest of pube hairs. That is such a weird thing for you to have in this ad read, Manscaped. I ain't gonna hold you, but get 20% off plus free shipping with code report at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping when you use code report at manscaped.com. Smooth sack summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind.
They've come a long way as a company. When Manscaped started, their primary benefit was they had the quietest razor, so that if you were about to get laid but you maybe had some maintenance to do, you could go to the bathroom and right very quietly. Still seems a little problematic to me, but hey, listen, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I guess you guys haven't had to deal with that in a while. I'm still in the game. Yeah.
Forever Bankroll. Get to some of your super chats and comments. He says, a really good friend of mine who grew up with Alvin and Elba told me State gave him $10K to commit. He laughed.
That's it.
Yeah, he says, get finessed. Hashtag happy losers.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll tell you this. I believe that because that number is more in line with what you're seeing from collectives on unproven kids. Now, a lot of astronomical numbers get thrown around, and people are like, I heard this kid got this much. And we've been pretty consistent in saying, like, these numbers just aren't as high as a lot of people think they are. Some of these kids, they're not getting, $20K a month. They're not making money like that for the most part. I ain't gonna put their business out there, but like they're more modest numbers that reflect like a part-time salary for a lot of these kids. And I think that's what it should be, honestly, until you've done something on the field. It's like, hey, you don't have time to go out and get a part-time job. Because back in the day, athletes were the brokest people on campus. They were. It was tough. You went there, you couldn't afford to do nothing. That's why they used to get in trouble for taking stuff from boosters. Because they were broke. They couldn't afford to take a girlfriend to the movies. Now they can't afford. They can take a lot of girlfriends to the movies now. Multiple girlfriends. They have a whole harem of girlfriends. But like that's what the numbers are mostly in 10K. That, I mean, like, what is that? Like less than $1,000 a month? Because they very rarely pay it out in a lump sum. It very rarely gets paid out in a lump sum because you have to do things for that.
Sure.
Especially if it's through the collective, and every month that you complete your obligations, there's a disbursement made to you, right? Any month you don't do what they asked you to do, then your check might come up short. So that's the way it's working. That's the way it should be working now. We'll see. I mean, that all could be changing here in a minute, but we'll see.
Yeah. Eugenia Akira gifted 20 Warport memberships, followed by Tiffany gifting another 5. I think that puts us at 30, gentlemen, I think.
That's correct.
30 for this current live. So thanks to you guys and ladies for gifting Warport memberships. We greatly appreciate it. Let's get to the conversation, guys. I pulled up 247 top high school prospects for the state of Alabama. And in the top 20 alone, Auburn currently has 6 committed to Bama's 5. Bama is in it for a few people. Auburn is in it for a few people. So those numbers will grow. But currently, Auburn is ahead of Alabama in in-state recruiting. And this has been kind of life ever since Saban had took the position at Alabama. He was winning the state, even though he was getting players from all over the country. He was definitely getting his fair share of the top kids. And Auburn was even losing some of those kids to other schools outside of the state. Is this a new shift with Nick Saban now leaving the SEC that Auburn can reclaim the most kids in the state of Alabama moving forward?
Honestly, yes. And it started last year when Saban was here. When he was with us, it started. So, Hugh Freeze is, he got hired for recruiting, guys. Like recruiting. As much as everybody complained about recruiting under Brian Harsin, he said, I'm going to put all my efforts into high school recruiting. He has said repeatedly in every interview, high school is the way to do it. It takes time to do that. So I need time to do this. This is how he believes it should be done. And he's going out and proving why you should give him time to do it his way, because it's working as far as getting the talent. Now, managing the talent, that's a whole different ballgame. But for the most part, he's going out and he's doing it, and it's proving to be effective. One thing I've liked about Freeze is when he says that he's putting his mind to something, that thing is getting done.
Factual.
He said, when Hugh Freeze says, I'm going to put my full attention into this thing, that thing's getting done. So DeBoer, be warned. If Hugh Freeze says, I don't care if that guy is committed to Alabama, I'm putting the full weight of all my power behind recruiting this guy, he should worry.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like DeBoer, I almost feel sorry for him a little bit, having to be the guy that followed Saban up.
Yeah, anybody sitting in that seat after Saban, you got to feel a little bad for.
Right.
Yeah.
Even and that's crazy because Saban gave you a really big head start on a bunch of this stuff. But
sure,
he gave you the keys to a Ferrari, but
you've never driven a Ferrari before in your life. Like you don't really know where.
He gave you a Ferrari, but he said, "I'm not paying for gas or insurance, right,
or maintenance."
Yeah, right. And you're like, "Oh man, this is kind of expensive to maintain."
Yeah,
which is why I didn't own a Ferrari before. Alabama football is a very expensive car to maintain.
That's a fact.
That's what it was. Washington was like it was like a really nice Infinity. It was like an Acura or something.
It's gonna dog my car. I got an Infinity.
I had one too. Still my knees wrecked it. But
it's definitely not a Ferrari. Is your point?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Nissan. It's a Nissan.
Same company.
All right. Like, so that's all I'm saying. You were driving a Camry in the pack. And it looked nice because it was brand new.
Yeah.
Right. And you put a spoiler on it.
Right. Yeah. You got the premium package, the leather seats, all of that. You're like, I'm whipping this thing, boy. And it's like, but
here's a Lamborghini. And you made the jump from family car to supercar.
Yeah.
Now, is it a supercar without Saban? I'm not so sure. But they got supercar expectations, though.
For sure.
They have supercar expectations. They expect you to drive it like it's a Lamborghini and maintain it like it's a Lamborghini. And I just don't know how realistic that is because Saban was a force. He was one of one, man. He truly was, dude. He was one of one. And I know that we don't like Alabama here, but you can't have any serious conversation about college football without saying that he was very good at playing the game. However, he played, during his time as head coach, going all the way back to when he was the head coach at LSU. He did it there. He did it at Alabama. Like, it's just, and you're not that. I have questions about whether his system will work. Yeah, Michael Penix looked great in the pack. A lot of quarterbacks did. What's he going to do when you're going against the premier minds week in and week out?
Without Penix.
Yeah, right. Like, is he going to be able to take Milroe and make him into a Penix-type quarterback? Honestly, Penix was more of a throw-first guy, but I don't know put Penix in the SEC if he does half of what he did in the pack. I like him. I do. And I think he played well in big games versus Oregon, but that's different football out there, man. I'm telling you. It's in my book, that's different football. So
the problem is going up against the type of defensive lines because I mean, listen, in that national championship game, that Michigan defensive line gave that Washington offensive line, like Penix did not have a bunch of time. Now he still made some amazing throws in that game, but he was off for the vast majority of that national champ. Like that, when you have defenders that have that kind of athleticism that can cause problems against your offensive line, and it ain't just 2 weeks out of your season that you got to deal with that. Like it's 4 or 5 weeks out of the season, they can match your physicality, your speed, and you're not going to have guys just running around wide open and you don't have a bunch of time to try to figure out where they're going to be. It's different. Your numbers are going to, which is why, again, I think any people who were saying what Jaden Daniels did last year wasn't amazing is like, again, a separate conversation, but like to your point, it's different. It's a different level of defensive football in the SEC than you're going to be facing week in and week out in the pack. It just is. Like, I don't know another way to explain to you the difference in the consistent level of athletes that you have to play. So yeah, there is a question about whether or not you'll be able to reproduce those things, which I think Kalen DeBoer is a great coach, but again, very big shoes to fill. And you've got to figure out how to do that now before you lose ground that you had a big lead in. Did anybody see Sha'Carri Richardson, the qualifier that she just had for the Olympics?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she stumbled out of the gate, recovered, and smoked everybody.
Right. And so I'm comparing how Hugh Freeze had the slow start because he didn't get a good start out of the gate. He was put in that position, but he's closing pretty quickly right now. And if you don't figure out how to gain speed, he might walk you down and smoke you by the end of the race.
It was a nightmare start. It's like your worst. It was like a stumble to the side. They say it's like the worst thing you can do in a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And
like,
you only had 100 meters, right? Yeah, she was hands up at the end. Caesar crossing the finish line. I was like, oh my God, that chick is next level. But to Ike's point, yes, like he had to stumble out the gate, but he's showing that he's got the back end speed to catch up. And if you look at Alabama's schedule, and the reason why I'm talking about their schedule here is because we're talking about recruiting. And I think that once results on the field start to falter, because right now you're inheriting a team coming off a playoff and an SEC championship, right? But when you first year you fail to produce an SEC championship, there's going to be a shift in the way that people think about this thing. And Texas and Oklahoma are here. This year alone, they have Georgia coming to town. Can you imagine if Georgia goes in there and beats them? You're going to have an L on the schedule?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely can.
Right. Like you're going to have an L on the schedule before you get out of the first month of college football. Right. And then they get a kind of a break with South Carolina and Vanderbilt. But in the next 3 games, you got to play at Tennessee. You got Missouri coming to town. And then you got to go to LSU. Come on, man. There could be 2 more losses there between Missouri and LSU. Then you close out with Oklahoma and Alabama. And Auburn. I don't know. Can you imagine the meltdown on the other side of the state if they lose?
Well, and that's
I can imagine that too. Yeah,
I can. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
4 games even, maybe.
But listen, that's the problem. Like as I said, Kalen DeBoer, he's a good coach, but you don't have a lot of room for error. Following Nick Saban because he didn't err much.
And that's another thing. I talked about the athletes, but the expectation is just drastically different in coaching at Washington versus coaching at Alabama.
Right.
You're even if you're the top dog in the pack, nationally, people are still kind of doubting you. That's a different expectation than being a top dog in the SEC and people expecting you to go out there and produce results.
I would characterize it this way, Ike. If you win a national title in the pack, you're getting a lifetime contract and you've got tenure. You probably
they would have never gotten rid of Kalen DeBoer, even making it to the title game. Like he was good at Washington for the foreseeable
future. Yeah, right. You could win a national title in SEC and get fired 2 years later.
Facts. Seen it happen
twice, multiple times.
That's not even like you're not speaking in hyperbole or any of that stuff. Right. Factual statement that can happen. Yes, you
can win a national title and be fired a few. Les Miles, Gene Chizik. Like, come on, man. Like there's no given there. that you're going to keep your job. Yeah, if you don't keep the party going. So I just, like I said, the expectation level is a little different, and if they falter on the field, I think you'll start to see a bigger shift even in recruiting, because then you give Hugh Freeze the ability to say they're no longer top dog, right? So, and you can that whole Saban is gone message. That's the most negative recruiting that you'll have to do against Alabama. He's not Saban.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all you got to say. Look, listen, it's a new era. Saban's era is done.
Don't mean he can't be good. He's just not.
No, I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach. I just think that he's yet to prove it because he hasn't had the opportunity to prove it in this kind of environment, whether or not he can do it. He may be great. I don't know. But I do know that there are already people. The mystique of Nick Saban being there meant a lot to recruiting. The mystique of Nick Saban patrolling the other line meant a lot to what people felt about Alabama coming to their stadium or coming into Tuscaloosa to play. The mystique of the guy patrolling the sidelines had a lot to do with that as well. And so when you remove that mystique, people start to believe a little bit more. Maybe we can go out there and compete. Maybe we can go out there and get a dub. And he's got to do something to kill that immediately, or it's just going to grow next offseason.
They have a Power 5 non-conference against Wisconsin early in the season.
I have no idea if
Wisconsin. Right? Yeah, but can you imagine if they lost that game? Even
I can imagine that too.
I mean, look, they had a hard time with South Florida last year. Wasn't that like a 3-point win?
Yeah,
come on, man.
No, it wasn't a 3-point win. It was a 3-point win. They
I don't know
struggling with them.
Yeah,
that was the game they benched. They benched old boy.
Milroe didn't start that game.
Milroe didn't start.
They had
they ended up winning like
Tyler Buckner.
Oh yeah, 17-3. 17-3. But 17-3. Come on, man. You put 17 points on South Florida. Now they went to South Florida, but this team is not infallible.
Dangerous road environment. Dangerous road environment.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, there were some tough games last year. 26-20, 26-20 versus A&M. 24-10 versus Ole Miss, man, they squeaked some out last year. Yeah. 24-21 Arkansas? Are you kidding me?
The Arkansas game was the one where I was like, is this Bama team really even good? Because I was I didn't think Arkansas was
not good. Yeah.
Give me a break.
And again, to the credit of Saban and that staff, they rebounded to make it to the playoff. The question you have to ask is, can Kalen DeBoer produce that kind of thing?
Can he do that?
Yeah, when that team is clearly outmatched in a couple of games and they either squeak by and or lose a game, can you keep everybody believing in that building that you're still good enough to continue down the road? Nick Saban rallies the horses, man. He figures out how to get people back on board, and that team got progressively better as the season went on. They just did.
Saban's superpower, I'm telling you, was hiring assistants. A lot of people laughed at me, and some people on the Bama side were just like, but as soon as he hired Kevin Steele, I knew it was the beginning of the end. I was like, oh, he don't give a fuck no more. Like Kevin Steele, he's just trying to he's just trying to get to the end. Right. Because if you think about it, and I said this, Kevin Steele was the first assistant that he hired in a long time that had no chance of becoming a head coach after his 10-year stint as DC there. It was just kind of like experienced guy that he had familiarity with that came from his coaching tree that he could hire, come in and do a good enough job to get them where they needed to go. That's it. That was his superpower, was hiring assistants. And toward the end, he started to falter. Bama fans hated Bill O'Brien. I have yet to talk to a Bama fan that said, I loved Bill O'Brien, did a great job.
But who says that, period? Who is coached? Like, a lot of people didn't like Bill O'Brien.
Oh my God. It was wild. Well, yeah, he hired him. And I'm telling you, Ken DeBoer, what kind of staff is DeBoer going to put together to compete week in and week out with the marquee minds in college football? Because there's way more of them in the SEC. And we just added Texas and Oklahoma. So it didn't get easier. And you got Oklahoma on the schedule. It didn't get easier for you. It got harder. And the schedules, there's going to be more parity in the schedules without divisions. It's no longer going to be the weak East versus the strong West. That's not what we have anymore.
Right.
You're going to have, your rivals that they keep. Certainly, Auburn and Alabama is always a game that's going to be played. It will never not be played. But as far as that rotation of teams that you play from other sides of the conference, this is it, man. And if they falter, I think that recruiting will start to look different going into 25 and 2026. If you're trying to choose between the two, it might be a little bit more difficult of a decision for you than it was before. Saban he had such a great recruiting pitch. And I'll end on this. When he said that when he retired, he said it was clear my message no longer resonated with players. So it was time to hang it up. Because guys came in and all they wanted to do was talk money.
Yeah.
And that's not what he was selling before. He was selling, you have a chance to be the best by joining the best and competing against the best and working your butt off every day. And if you are the best and you play here at Alabama, you're going to the league. We saw that bear out time after time after time. And he can't use it. He said that message was no longer effective. So he retired. And is Kalen DeBoer going to be able to be good at this era of college football? Money, like managing divas, like, what kind of culture are they going to have? I have questions about, what kind of team culture he's going to be able to keep at Alabama. And once they hit adversity, that again, I'll end this because it sounds like a big Saban praise fest. It's making me throw up. But like that team,
he deserves it, bro. He's the GOAT. Like you can't not say good things about Nick.
Yeah. They dealt with adversity extremely well over the course of his tenure at Alabama. Man, years where like people were like, is this the downfall? Nope, playoff again. Right? Nope. Like, I mean, they just always found their way back. I remember a lot of people, including our guy Big Game Boomer, love you, bro. But they were the preseason last year. They were like, Alabama doesn't have a quarterback. Well, they sort of figured it out by the end of the season, and it looked like he was right to start the season. They didn't look like they had a quarterback. They figured it out.
But, one of his more impressive jobs last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Dealing with adversity mid-season, you benched him, and then he came back to be a borderline Heisman candidate.
Yeah.
Just missed it, New York. So I don't, and beat Georgia. And he made plays to beat Georgia. It wasn't like they just, he made Superman plays in that game to beat Georgia. So Georgia was still the best team in the country last year in my book. I think I thought they were a better team than Michigan. And I think that they were better than Alabama, but Alabama was better on that day. But yeah, this shift is coming. It's undeniable. Nick Saban retiring rebalances college football just a little bit, right? Like it rebalances the power because now one program can no longer just automatically dominate the top 5 in recruiting. There's a significant amount of game-changing players that may end up at other programs, right? And sometimes when your roster is good, all it takes is one generational prospect to be the difference between winning a championship and not winning a championship.
For sure.
Alabama has been hogging them for the last 17 years, and now there's one less program there. I think that will get those players on name alone. You're going to get them. You're going to have to work really, really hard. And like I said, I'm not sure that's where he's at. So Hugh Freeze he set the message that he's willing to work as hard as he needs to.
Yeah, I mean, how many of you said something about the top 20? How many are Auburn commits or the Auburn leans right now?
6, and there's an Auburn lean in Anquan Fagans.
Right, the top prospect in the state right now is committed to Ohio State.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Auburn's been working to try to flip him as well.
Number 2 is trying to decide between South Carolina and Georgia. Bama's got number 3. 4 is an Auburn lean. 5 is committed to Auburn. 6 is a Bama lean. 7's committed to Auburn. 8's committed to Auburn. 9's committed to Texas, right? And then Bama has 10 through 12. Auburn's got 13, 14, 15. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking like, wow, when they started to lose, when they started to really lose it, it was just like, it just felt like Saban was going to get whoever he wanted from the state. And after like 12 or 13th ranked kid in the state, Auburn would come in and grab 1 or 2.
Right.
Yeah. So, once you start getting into that top 5 in the players in the state, or the top player in the state in terms of Cam Coleman last year, it's man, like I said, this is all changed. It's all different, and I'm looking forward to seeing the more parity at the top when it comes. Because I think the Texas might be dangerous in the league next year. Honestly, I think it might be dangerous in the league next year. And who wins this inaugural 16 team SEC is going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I doubt Auburn wins it, but man, they got a chance to really mess up some dreams here in year 1.
For sure. Any other thoughts, guys, before we get out of here?
Nah, I don't have anything else on it. Screw those guys.
Yeah, look, Hugh Freeze is he's doing this thing his way, and as he continues to get the recruits in, I'm not gonna lie, he's made me more of a believer in this system of doing it, because I'd rather see him get top athletes and at least go at it with those top athletes. Then I'll tell you this: how Hugh Freeze is trying to build this, that inevitability that it feels like when you're watching a Bama game, like you're just kind of sitting there waiting on them to come back when they're winning. Or the feeling that when Auburn and Alabama play, when they beat Auburn, it's a blowout. But when Auburn wins, it's a miracle. I think Hugh Freeze is trying to eliminate the days of Auburn fans feeling like it has to be a miracle every time they beat Alabama.
Yeah.
2019, they needed 2 pick sixes to win that game. A second string quarterback on the other side, and then it even turned a little bit more because the miracles stopped happening. 2 straight Iron Bowls after that at home, where you lost in epic fashion. Played your hearts out, but the miracles stopped coming. And I think that's where he thinks the talent gap will fix that a little bit. He's saying, you know what? Brian Harsin's first year was a 2021. 2021 Iron Bowl will never happen. If we get in the fourth quarter, we're stopping them from driving down the field to tie the game, because we're going to have more horses than they are. Last year's Iron Bowl, even 4th and 31 never happens because we're going to have more horses than you are.
Yeah.
And we played you as tight as we could, what we had, but give me 2 more years. I'm telling you, that 4th and 31 isn't coming. So I think that's the right way to do this, and I'm bought into his way of doing it because I want to see what he can do with the top talent. Now, can he eliminate the inexplicable losses from his repertoire?
Which I think he can.
Yeah, like the Vanderbilts and the New Mexico States, and it seems like every other year there's some really loss that just head scratching. Can he get those out of the system? That's going to be the difference between splitting your time effectively between recruiting and game day planning. I don't think he did a good job of that last year. I don't think he did a good job of that last year. So this year he's got to balance that more effectively, and we'll be watching to see if he can do that. It'll pay off in recruiting.
For sure. All right, tell the people how they can get a green name or how they can get one.
It's really simple. You click that join button and you're able to come on board with the Green Name Gang and be amongst the elite people in the War Report family that are able to get all the paywall content that we've got going for you guys. So much film review. I sat down and did some Miles Kelly film yesterday, so I'll be crank. I've got Miles Kelly. I've got Keandre Lambert-Smith. I've got I don't know. I've done like 3 or 4 different film cut-ups over the last couple of days. So I'm going to start getting back into my film bag coming up here. And not to mention, we got office hours that I'll be cranking out for you guys. So stay tuned for that Green Name Gang. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now. Make sure that someone gets a free month of membership on you. Shout out to our folks over there at Vintage 2298 on 2298 East University Drive in Auburn, Alabama. They have been a great sponsor of the War Report. If you're looking for some good eats while you're in the Auburn area, make sure you hit up vintage. Or you can go by their butcher shop and just go pick up your own cuts of steak or whatever it is that you want to get for your protein. Bring it back to the house. Throw it on your Golden's Cast Iron Grill if you want to be able to do that. Check out our folks over at Golden's Cast Iron. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off of the weights. TWR for $65 off of fire pits and Kamado grills. And then always check out the folks on the network. Auburn Express is where we are potting. Up-Tempo Podcast, the College Loop, and Just a Sec Pods, all a part of the War Report Podcast Network. We're getting dangerously close to College Football 25. And if you're not tapped in with the War Report Gaming channel, we will have plenty of content going on for that as well. So make sure y'all are locked in with all things the War Report has going on.
And before you get out of here, or if you're watching on replay, we always need for you to share this content, smash that like button. And if you're not a subscriber, please become one. You can find us on X, IG at The War Report. We're on TikTok at TW Report. That's it for now, guys. We will definitely be sending you content, putting out content throughout the week. Check our live show on this upcoming Wednesday. Mike is always dropping some version of the mix, building rapport segments. So keep it locked here, guys, as we continue to push out great content as we get closer to the 2024 season. And as always, enjoy your weekend in War Eagle.
War Eagle.